I think about how beautiful that really is that I can be with Eric and with our future children forever and ever. That's what heaven is for me. Hey guys, it's Mimi. Welcome back to my channel. One of the most common questions that I receive are, what are weddings like in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? I'm a member of that church and I was just married in January and I just wanted to talk about it. I know that there are a lot of misconceptions about it and I feel like a lot of it is unknown. I did one of those stickers on my story on my Instagram account where I asked you guys what questions you have about LDS weddings, and I'm just gonna get on here and try to answer those questions. So if you're not already, be sure to follow me on Instagram. I do a lot of interactive stuff, so I know what content you guys like, so be sure to follow me there so you don't miss out on any of the fun. So I received quite a few questions, but a lot of them did overlap or they were similar questions, so I tried to combine them. So if you don't hear your specific question being answered, I'm sorry. I hope that you still get the answers you were looking for. The first question I'll be answering today is simply, how do LDS weddings work? And then going along with that, someone else asked, what's the difference between a temple wedding and a normal wedding? So in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we believe in what we call temple sealings, and I absolutely love this. Is actually one of my favorite parts about my church is we believe that not only do we get married for till death do we part, but we believe that our marriages can last through time and all eternity. And having married I'm looking over at him, but having married my best friend, that is such, oh my gosh, every time I talk about him I get emotional, but when I think about how beautiful that really is that I can be with Eric and with our future children forever and ever, that's what heaven is for me. I mean, I couldn't imagine heaven without him, or I'm sure without my future family someday. So I'm so grateful for, this knowledge that I have, that and our sealing that we can be together forever. So, anyway, what happens in temple sealings? Basically, you're not only making a covenant with your spouse that you're going to be faithful to your spouse, but you're also making a covenant with God that you're going to be faithful to your spouse. And in our church, we really heavily believe that the closer that you are with your spouse and with God, the stronger your marriage will be. I know some of you might have seen this before. It's like a triangle. Not the Illuminati, but it's like you and then your spouse and then God's at the top. So the closer that you get with God, the closer you get with your spouse as well. I feel like I need to just go into more depth about what actually happens in the sealing. So I'm gonna say as much as I can. It is very sacred, so I'm not gonna specifically say the word for word what is said, what covenants are made. It's supposed to be only spoken in the temple, so I'm going to respect that. So basically the sealing room is beautiful. It has a chandelier, usually. It depends on the temple, but it's just, it's such a beautiful room, and there can be chairs on either side of the room, or there's just chairs on one side. In the middle of the room, there's an altar that each person in the couple kneels at. So they're at the altar like this, and then on both walls behind them, there are two mirrors facing each other. So it's like you can see forever. And basically what happens is all of the family and friends who are invited are seated, and then the couple walks into the room, the sealer gets up, he bears his testimony, he says, oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful, wonderful day for this couple, and then what? Why are you laughing at me?
Oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful day.
Well, he doesn't say it quite like me, but anyway, then he just talks about the plan of salvation and how important the temple sealing is and how amazing it is for the couple. And then the couple, they get up, they kneel at the altar, and then the sealing happens, which is only 5 minutes, where they just make covenants with each other, and then it's over. I mean, then after that, the couple stands up and they give hugs to everyone who came, and it's really, it's so amazing. Anyway, that's essentially what the temple sealing is. We're gonna go on into the next question because I feel like we have a good transition here. Why can't everyone be a witness to the LDS sealing? I know for some people, it can be really hard. For when I got married, I mean, it was just my mom on my side of the family that came into the temple with me, because I do not have anyone else in my family who is worthy to be in the temple. So I know it's hard to understand, and it's easy just to say like, oh, like that's unfair because it's your family and they should be there. But if you understand the sacredness of the temple and why we don't just let anyone into the temple at any time, I think you can understand why we do that. Of course, as a church, I feel like we're very welcoming. I mean, we have missionaries all over the world who invite anyone, literally strangers, into our normal church buildings and our meeting houses. But in the temple, we believe that you need to be worthy to be in there just because it's so sacred. It's God's house. Going along with that, we have other questions that are asking, do you have a non-member family? How did you make them feel included? So like I said, I do have a huge non-member family. My mom was a convert to the church. It was just my mom and I, and then Eric's side of the family. So we still had obviously like a wedding reception, and I feel like that's a really big way that we were able to help my family feel included. I mean, I have grandparents who flew out from Hawaii. They're not members of the church, but they were able to be there for my reception, and I think it was still great. I know a lot of people do ring ceremonies. My best friend got married and she did a ring ceremony, and all of my friends and her husband's family were able to be there even though they weren't able to be in the temple. So there are still plenty of ways to make your family feel included. So I really hope that wouldn't stop you from wanting to get married in the temple just because they can't be there, because just the blessings of being sealed in the temple are so worth it. Another question that I got quite a few times was, are you allowed to wear your wedding dress in the ceremony? So yes, you are, but it does need to fit certain like guidelines because it is the temple. So my dress, my wedding dress, I absolutely love it. It was my dream dress. It had a lot of sequences. Sequins or sequences? Just sequins? Okay, it had a lot of sequins, and it was like very sparkly, and that wasn't allowed inside the temple because they ask you not to have really sequensy things in the temple. It also needs to be like white. It can't be an off-white. So the reason why they have those guidelines is they just don't want your dress or the style of your dress to be distracting and what's really going on. So if you're getting married soon, don't worry. I don't have all the answers, but when you call the temple to schedule your sealing, they're so nice, so sweet, and they will tell you everything that you need to know. Someone else asked, what is the difference between your wedding dress and the dress you wear in the temple? So I didn't wear, like I said, my wedding dress into my sealing. I just wore my normal white dress that I wear when I'm serving in the temple. And honestly, like I thought I was gonna be like, oh my gosh, like wanting to wear my really sparkly, like really pretty dress in the temple, but when it comes down to it, it really doesn't matter that much anyway. I mean, you don't take pictures in the temple. So what I did is I wore my just normal temple dress in my sealing, and then after the sealing was over, they have like a really beautiful bride's room where you change into your other dress. They keep your flowers in water for you, so as soon as you walk out the doors, you start pictures and you're good to go. They even like have curling irons, they have bobby pins, like they'll hook you up, girl, don't worry. But there are a lot of people who, if their dress does fit like what it needs, the guidelines that it needs to fit, you totally can wear your dress there too. Next question is, why don't you take pictures inside the LDS Temple ceiling? So I mentioned this in the last answer, but we don't take any photos in there. And I mean, it's just the same thing when you think about it's the Lord's house. You want to respect it, and not that taking photos is disrespectful, but sometimes it can get loud. Sometimes people don't cooperate. I mean, in the temple, you want to be on your tip-top behavior, obviously. And it's just a very sacred place. It's just, you take photos outside. That's just what you do, just to respect the temple. Okay, my next question is, how hard was the planning and how long did it take? So, Eric and I did not really have, I think, a traditional engagement where we were like planning it for months and we had everything all figured out. In November of last year, we were planning on getting married in August, but then we found out that we actually get married sooner. Just long story short, I was holding a title for the Miss America organization. I was Miss Sandy, but I ended up giving up my crown earlier. So anyway, we ended up being able to get married a lot sooner, but in the end of November, we decided we were going to get married in the middle of January. So we had, oh my gosh, I don't even like want to think about it. Like, it was so stressful. I do not recommend like planning a wedding in that short of time, because really I had nothing planned out. It was nuts. And we chose January because we wanted to get married before the school semester started, because it was just easier to find housing and everything, but it was crazy. But that's how long it took for us. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially here in Utah County, a lot of people have really short engagements, like, I don't know, like 3-4 months probably. That's pretty common. But I know outside of our, culture of our church, people have like engagements for years and years. I just think of Pam from The Office. Like, how long is she engaged to Roy? Like, so long. In our church, we believe if you know that you're right for each other, if you know you want to spend the rest of forever with each other, why wait? You might not have like the most perfect wedding that you were always imagining, but you can make it work. And what really matters is that you're sealed to your partner for time and all eternity. Next question is, was your wedding expensive? So really cool thing about being sealed in the temple is that you have literally one of the most beautiful venues in the entire world, and you don't have to pay for it. That's right, it is absolutely free to be married in an LDS temple. So I was personally married in the San Diego temple, and I will insert photos. You guys, it was absolutely stunning. We got amazing pictures, and we got married in January, where it's usually very cold in Utah, but we got married in California. So that was a great touch as well. I feel like it's not as expensive getting married in our church, just because if you get married in the temple, you have that venue for free. Another thing that's very common in our church is you can use our church building to have your wedding reception in. My brother-in-law had his wedding reception in like one of our church buildings in like the gym area. And I know you're probably thinking like, oh gross, like in a gym, but like it was beautiful, you guys. Like, I walked in and I was like, I didn't even know that we were in our church anymore, because there was like stuff like on the ceiling, and like it was really cool. And,
they hung a canopy.
They hung a canopy. They did? What is that?
That's the stuff that you hang from ceilings. So
I thought it was like not toilet paper, but like it was just tissue paper, right? They hung a canopy?
That's what they call it.
Oh. Yeah, so there was a canopy, so it like covered the ceiling, so it just looked like a whole different room, and there were like balloons and lights, and it was really pretty. So that is also free to use. I personally didn't get married in a church building. We found a wedding reception hall that was nearby, so that's where we got married. But that is one of the most expensive parts about a wedding, is where you're going to hold your wedding reception and your actual wedding. So luckily in our church we have free places that you can use, so it really does not need to be that expensive. Next question is, what was your favorite part? Like, in all honesty, my favorite part was probably when it was all over, because then we didn't have to worry about, like, I did a lot of it myself. This kind of goes along with the last question, but we didn't have a DJ. I made my own flowers. My dress was kind of like DIY, not DIY, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of the aspect, like we made our own centerpieces. We were trying to be very frugal. I hate spending money. Even though it's like your wedding, it's an important day. I just felt like there were parts that didn't need to be costing as much as we needed them to. We did our own food at the wedding reception. We had a chocolate fountain and a cheese fountain, and it was really good. So anyway, my favorite part was probably when everything was over, because then you just don't have to worry about it, and then you're just married. You're probably going to say something like really romantic.
I think the lunch.
The lunch was your favorite
It was
part?
good. It was a pizza bar, and then the kazookies.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, the lunch was so good. It was in San Diego, because that's where we got married. Do you remember what it was called?
BJ's.
BJ's. I guess it's a chain, but like it was a pizza bar, and it was so good. We had like all these different kinds of pizzas and salads, but the best part was the dessert, because we had pazookies. Do you guys know what that is? I didn't know what that was, but it's basically like a giant cookie, like this big, like huge, and then there's ice cream on it, and there was this one that was like salted caramel. Oh, that is my favorite. Salted caramel everything is my life. It was so good. So I guess that was Eric's favorite part, was the luncheon. Another question we got is is getting married and then sealed later the same as a temple marriage? A temple marriage, we call that a temple sealing. Like that is like our verbiage for it or whatever. So whether you get sealed and that's the first time, like that's your official marriage, or if you get married first and then sealed later, that is the exact same thing. The church doesn't see it as different. It's all the same blessings. So yeah. The next question says, was your sealing the first one that you've ever attended, and would you recommend that? For me, it was the first sealing I had ever experienced, but for Eric, he had been to several before. So, I mean, either way, I don't think it matters too much. Next question says, was it hard finding a modest dress? Where and how did you find your dress? More often than not, I feel like when you get married in the temple, you probably just need to get your dress altered or tailored somehow. So my personal experience with my wedding dress is, you guys know now that my engagement was very short. I didn't have a lot of time to plan anything really, let alone get my dream wedding dress. So I actually kind of made my dream wedding dress. I didn't make it myself, but we figured some things out. So if you guys know me or have been watching 3 Mormons or my channel for a little bit, you know that I've competed in pageants for the last few years. So I have my competition gown that I wore when I competed for Miss Utah. It is white, it has a beautiful neckline, and like, oh, it is just such a beautiful dress. And I was like, I'm just gonna get married in this because I love the dress so much. It already fits me great. All I had to do was, it was like, so it had sleeves, but it was like sheer. We just got everything like covered even more. It had an open back, so we had the back covered, so it was just like white all underneath it, and it ended up beautiful. The dress already was a custom made MacDougall. So if you know pageant dresses, that's like one of the top of the line pageant dresses. I mean, this dress was expensive, so I'm glad I got to wear it again to make it worth my money. That's how I personally found my wedding dress. My best friend, who I was just a bridesmaid in her wedding last week, so we were on a company trip in Germany, and we actually went dress shopping for her in Germany, and she found her dream dress there. It didn't have sleeves though. It was just like, kind of like this shirt is, like just like this, like sleeveless. So she actually just had a tailor put sleeves on and make it all covered up, and it worked out perfectly. It looked like the dress was built that way, and it ended up perfect for her. So don't worry, like if you're feeling like you're not going to be able to find anything, just don't quit looking, or just find something as close to what you want as you can, and then you can make it work with alterations. Next question is, what if I end up never getting married and die without an eternal companion? So my mom, my parents are divorced, so my mom, I saw her dating for years and years and years, and just never being able to find anyone she was really compatible with, or finding someone that she wanted to marry. And there was a time in my life when I was like 14 years old, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, my mom is amazing and she's not married. What if I end up never getting married? And it's a very scary thought, because we believe that to receive the very highest kingdom of glory in heaven, you need to be married to your eternal companion. And the reason for that, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but to receive the highest kingdom of glory, you want to be with your eternal companion, because when you are sealed to that person, that makes you one. It makes you complete and whole. And we believe that we have a heavenly Father, which is God, but we also have a heavenly Mother. And by joining and being sealed to your eternal companion, that's just following their example. And that way you're able to have kids and an eternal increase forever and ever. And it is just a beautiful, beautiful thing, and that's how I picture heaven, and it's just perfect. Going back to the question, I would say just don't worry about it. In my experience, when I was just working on me and, trying to get closer to God myself, that's when I ended up meeting Eric. And when I say that, I don't want you to just say, okay, I don't have to try. I don't have to go on dates. I don't have to do these things and put myself out there, because you do. That's not what I'm saying at all. You still need to put yourself out there. But when you are working on yourself and working to become closer to God, that's when you're going to find someone. So don't obsess over it. But when you are really trying to increase and grow your testimony, that's when you're in your best place, and I believe that's when you're the most attractive to other people. Another thing too is there are people who die without having the opportunity to be sealed in the temple for time and all eternity. And in that case, that is okay. God wants there to be a way for all of his children to return to him. He loves us so much. He loves you, and he wants you to have that chance. So even if you die without having the opportunity to be married, whether you just die and you never got married, or if you know someone who like died when they were a kid, everyone is still going to have the opportunity to get married and have that amazing blessing and receive exaltation. So in that case, people can get married in heaven. I know that there is a verse in the Bible that a lot of other Christians interpret differently than we do. It's what Jesus says, and he says that there are no marriages in the resurrection. In reference to that, we believe that we will be getting married before the resurrection. So when the resurrection happens, everyone will be with their eternal companion, and it'll be like a huge group date, and it'll be a party and so fun.
Huge.
Our next question is, how long does the ceremony take? So this depends a little bit because it depends on if you're on time to your sealing, which my friend wasn't. She was so late. It was hilarious because she's late to everything. But it depends on if you're on time, if you start on time, and it also depends on the sealer. So the sealer is the person who marries you guys. So basically the actual sealing, the actual like marrying each other, it's very quick. Same thing as like weddings outside our church and outside of the temple. I mean, the actual part of where they're marrying each other, it's like 5 minutes. So same thing for us. So it does depend on the sealer. Sometimes the sealers like to bear their testimony, or they talk about the plan of salvation and how amazing it is that they're there in the temple getting married and what that means kind of. Usually the ceremony itself only takes about 30 minutes. So really quick, short and sweet. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that I was able to answer some of your questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also, I am on another YouTube channel called 3 Mormons where we discuss gospel topics like this. So if you're interested, we have a couple ones about marriage, not quite like this, but feel free to go there with any other questions you have. Thank you so much for watching. I really have a strong testimony in eternal marriages. I'm so grateful that I have a knowledge of eternal families and that I was able to be sealed to the love of my life forever. It's just the most amazing thing to think about. Sorry. Anyway, before I start crying, I'll just wrap this up. So if you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions about my church that you would like me to answer, leave them below. I'm always looking for suggestions on what to make videos about, and I love to hear your input. So feel free to do that. You can also follow me on my social media platforms. I have Instagram and Twitter. And honestly, thank you so much for all of your love and support. And I will talk to you guys next time.